Okay, we are going to get started on the event today. First of all, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their schedule, especially at this time of the year. It seems to be the end of the year with the holidays and whatnot, get a little bit more hectic, and certainly businesses trying to close out books, revenue, and other projects that they have going on. So I appreciate all the owners that are attending this event and taking the time out to go through it. So we'll be respectful of your time. We keep this about 30 minutes as we go through, and hopefully we can give you some great information. We think we've got some good stuff here to chat about today. So we are going to talk about the subscription model. Some of you may know it as reoccurring revenue, but how does reoccurring revenue help you increase value? And then certainly when you get ready to transition, exit out, how does it help you to monetize more of the value? We are going to also be talking a little bit, how does it impact you when you're running your business on a day-to-day basis? If your runway is say 5 to 10, 15 years or further out, what can you do to increase that reoccurring revenue as you go through? So we'll get started here and get things moving. So let's first take a minute and talk about why this session matters. And what we see in our travels in working with business owners and looking at businesses is most of the revenue is, one time, right? We're going out, we're doing a project, we're making something, we're providing a service, and then that's it. And then we have to go and we have to find a new customer to kind of move on. And for the most part, that's probably going to be the way for most businesses moving forward. The subscription model, recurring revenue, most of you already have experience with, and I'll give you the obvious ones just because they're in front of us every single day, right? You can take a look at Amazon if you're an Amazon subscriber, iTunes, Spotify, all of those are subscription-based reoccurring revenue models. Now, most of those are in the category of technology. Our work is primarily manufacturing and construction, so there's a lot of ways that those industries themselves can actually look at creating some additional reoccurring revenue that you have more of a consistent way that you can predict the revenue that's not only coming in for the current year, but you're trying to look out 2 or 3 years into the future, so to speak. And so we're trying to take away some of the risk of always depending upon one-time pieces of revenue. And so what does that do for you as a business owner? It's going to help you to reduce some of your unpredictability and risk in the cash flow area so that you know that you always have some cash flow coming in on a regular basis. Ask yourself this question. What would your business look like if you could get to 20 to 30% revenue? Even break it down as what if you had 10% of your revenue on a reoccurring basis every single year and it was coming in on a regular basis? So we have to make sure that we're taking a look at that to create that sustainability. Sustainability and transferability are two words that if you've attended any of these built to exit master classes, or if you're involved into our mastermind groups with the owners that are actually looking to grow and exit, is that transferability and sustainability are key factors that every business has to be able to look at. When you look at previous P&L and balance statements, that's the history, that's in the past. What we have to look at is what's in the future. What is the sustainability that we can repeat that and move that forward on a regular basis to move the company forward to really where you would like it to be at as a business owner, and maybe obviously where it also needs to be at when you're getting ready to sell. So when we're taking a look at some clarity, when buyers look at models and look at your business, every dollar that renews with some reliability gets a higher weighting in order to value the business that you have. So having some type of reoccurring revenue or subscription model, however you want to define it, agreements or service agreements can shift you from a 3 to 4 multiple closer to a 5 to 7 multiple. And depending on what part of the industries you're in, you could go even higher. So this is important for many reasons, certainly current cash flow, sustainability, profitability, and then obviously when you get ready to transition out of your business, it's going to be great when you get ready to sell the business. So again, my name is Vincent Mastervito, the owner and founder of Prometheus Partners. I'm a certified exit strategist and consultant. And what we do is we go into privately held businesses and help them understand what is their sustainability and how can they monetize more of the value that they have within the business when they get ready to transition out of the business. So let's take a minute and let's talk about what is reoccurring revenue. So when we get beyond SaaS reoccurring revenue, so it's not, as I mentioned in the first slide or first part of it, it's not just about software companies, right? Amazon, iTunes, and things of that nature. Maintenance contracts and annual service plans and consumable subscriptions are a booming industry inside of the reoccurring revenue model. And what we're actually seeing is that companies with at least 30% of their revenue coming from these agreements see an average of 2 to 3 times of an increase in their exit value. Customer lifetime value, or CLV as we call it, subscription customers deliver 3 to 5 times higher lifetime value. So if you're not tracking like what is the lifetime value of your client, what other business are you getting from them? Then I think that's just a missed opportunity that you can go back and take a look at to say, how does this fit into our model and how do we go through it? Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how do you implement this into your organization, because this isn't maybe not as easy as what some people think. You have to kind of get ready to do this because it's going to take some extra manpower to really get it implemented at the right levels. Let's go back for a moment to 2020. Obviously, that's around the COVID area, right? So the downturn in companies. The companies that had strong reoccurring revenue streams experienced a 3.5 times less revenue volatility and maintained about 85% of their growth. So these are key factors. And so when we're taking a look at a company, we're trying to take a look at, you've got probably a 3 to 5, and maybe it's a 10 or 15 year runway, as I always call it, before you really make the decision to exit out of your business. So from the starting point until that point, you got to make sure that the company has that cash flow coming in on a regular basis. So when you take a look at these things that we're talking about today, it really can help you to manage currently what you have and what does it look like when you get ready to transition out. You will need to you're going to need to start small. You're going to need to create a strategy. You're going to need to take a look at what your operations looks like. You have to take a look at your finance. Do you have to get some extra people in there within a reasonable period of time to do it? And these are things that you just need to think through so that if you're looking to kick this off, it can be really easy. It'll be much easier to handle. It doesn't make it easy. It just makes it easier. So again, subscriptions are either monthly or annual models. Service agreements are more maintenance contracts. And then user-based models are pay per use or LOT monitoring. So you got to take a look at what those are and kind of figure out where do we fit in and what can we use. And they're all a little bit different is what you're really trying to take a look at. We had as an example, we had a couple. We had manufacturing, design and build, and HVAC. So we had I'll start with the HVAC company just because I said it last. We had an HVAC company that was growing pretty fast, and they went in and they did some maintenance contracts to have clients sign to come in and service their furnaces, hot water tanks, water softeners, and other things, air conditioners, depending on where they are in the country. So they would actually have an agreement and pay a fee, and then the company would come in automatically and service those those items every year at a different time. So they might come in first and do the furnace, obviously about this time of year, if you're in the Midwest where the winter really kind of kicks in and you're using the furnace more. And then they're going to come in later on and look at the water softener and looking at the other things at different times. But they have that built in automatically. So they're creating revenue automatically every single year from all of their customers. We had a design and build company a number of years ago that actually transitioned over to the management side. The owner transitioned out and his key person bought the company. And they developed a kind of like a service agreement because it was where they had people that were there during the summer months and then they would leave probably towards the end of September. And they built a three-tier level to service their homes while they were out. And then what that would also do is that would create potentially more work for them when they're in there looking at the houses during the winter and let the owners know, say, hey, here's what we see. Do you want us to fix that? All of that is part of the reoccurring revenue model because you're constantly doing that all the time. So it's not just about the money that you charge them, though that's a key part of it, is that you're getting other work from the revenue that you currently have in that model to be able to build out the business and do more. From the manufacturing side, we're seeing it where they actually have contracts with people out and they're going out 2, 3, 4, 5 years with projects that they can do for these organizations. And so they have the business coming in over a period of time. So no matter where you are in the industry spectrum, you can find a model that can work for you. And then it's certainly within your strategic planning, as we would always say, is find a way is how do we move this into that area so that we can actually handle it and move it forward. So let's take a look at why reoccurring revenue matters, right? We talked about what it does for the lifetime value of the client, but it does lower customer acquisition costs. So they don't need to acquire that customer only but one time. They already have the customer. So the onboarding process and getting to know all the things they have is going to be a lot easier when you actually have that stuff put together. You have stronger customer relationships, engagement, any cross-selling of other products and services that you provide is a lot easier to utilize when you already have the client on board and you've done one thing with them. Again, this is kind of an extension of the one I just mentioned, is it's going to be a little bit easier to upsell them on other products and services that you have once you're providing one product or service for them. You can improve your overall operational efficiency. So this will be a key factor if if you go back to the last piece of what I was talking about, you've got to kind of onboard this system over a period of time. So you got to take a look at how is our operationals and how can we get more efficient so that we can produce and provide this service or these products for these people on a regular basis. You get more efficient in your production or operations. That's really where it's going to make you a lot more profitable and bring the cash in. So optimizing inventory, staffing, and supply chain. And it's going to enhance your brand loyalty, your sense of belonging. So people feel a little bit better because they know that they kind of have, hey, everything we have is at this organization. Now, I understand this may feel a little bit touchy-feely to you, but this is real. And this is how people really look at it because they say, well, we can depend on these people to provide these services or these products for us. And so they're going to always go back to them and make sure that you have it. One of the things I will advise all business owners to make sure when you're looking at this, really make sure that your quality control and operations is really up to speed and you're really efficient in both those areas. You got a very high level of quality control because that's going to be a key as you move this forward and make sure that it's there. So again, predictability and stability. Buyers will pay a premium for businesses with predictable income streams. 70 plus reoccurring revenue equals sometimes along 5 to times more of an annual profit. One-time sales is about 2 to 3 times for your annual profit. So even a small increase in reoccurring revenue on a regular basis is going to have a dramatic impact on the P&L and balance statement. So the subscription economy is just booming. I don't think I need to tell anybody on this webinar just where it's at. You may need to connect it with your business and your industry and how does it work. But in 2015, it was about $345 billion. That is just huge. That's a big number. If we just take a second and step back a little bit, that's a monumental number. 2020 was about 8 billion. You can see in 2025, they're looking at about 1.5 trillion. And you got to take a look at where do you fit in and how can you do this. I would suggest that each company, if they really work at it over a period of time, you should be able to get to about 20 to 30% of your revenue can get close to reoccurring revenue. So it's a shift from ownership to access. And customers, especially younger generations, increasingly, prefer access to the overall ownership. Excuse me. So you're also getting where it eliminates the hassle of repeated buying decisions. They're already buying from you, so they already know, hey, we can go over to this group and we can get this done. It encourages you, the business, to continuously improve and expand what it is that you're actually offering. And the better you do that and the more efficient you do that on a regular basis, then certainly you're going to keep those customers. They're going to buy more. They're going to keep coming back to you, right? And again, as before, another kind of like touchy-feely, it does offer a sense of community, exclusivity, and loyalty. So it's certainly overall, it will strengthen the brand that you have and allow you to take a bigger market share inside of your market, whether it's local, regional, national, or even global. It's going to allow you to do that. Let's talk a little bit about what is the benefit when you look to transition out or exit out, right? So it's going to obviously reduce some of the risk that you have on there. It's going to help with the financing that you have. Banks are going to look at this as a very attractive way for financing because they know that this revenue is consistent and already always coming in. They can look at the agreements that you have and they can see what's going on. And this is going to help them with the financing. And it obviously helps to attract buyers to the business. Remember, most business owners today are around baby boomer age. When they get ready to sell, you're selling to a younger generation. They're going to feel differently about how long that they want to be in the business. There are some current statistics out there. Certainly baby boomers work longer, probably into their 70s or mid to late 70s. Generation Xers are looking to transition out at 55 or 60. Generations behind them are probably going to look to be around the same, if not an earlier date. So every generation is going to view that because they've learned from the previous generation in a lot of cases. And so to make that more attractive, it's going to help you, the owner, and obviously help the owner when they come on board. I did want to let everybody know. I think I forgot, so I do apologize for that. If you have any questions along the way, there is a chat that you can go in and ask any questions and put it in the chat. Be happy to address it if we get time. If we don't, then I'll record the answers. The replies to your question, and then when we send this out, when we send the recording out to you, those answers will be in the recording, and everybody will get the answers to them. So feel free to do that if you have any questions. So let's take a look at some of the proof in the numbers overall, right? And just take a kind of see like, what do we have here? 70% of business leaders say subscription models are crucial for the future success from Digital Route. Returning customers spend 67% more than new customers. Reoccurring models multiply this effect. And then 90% of US customers subscribe to at least one product or service. And so I'd given everybody here at least a couple, 2 or 3 different industries that we've had experiences with. Obviously, the technology area you can take a look at. If you have an industry that you think didn't fit into any of the ones that we talked about, certainly you can ask a question. We'll be happy to give you kind of a general idea of like, here's what we see in that industry and inside where you're at is like, what are some things that you could take a look at to get that reoccurring revenue to help your organization get to even a stronger balance line. So no matter how profitable you are, this is going to make you even more profitable as you move forward. So when you talk about getting started with reoccurring revenue, we talked about this a little bit. you want to understand and identify, first of all, what is the path for us to get and where should we actually have our reoccurring revenue model? So is it maintenance contracts? Is it consumables? What is it exactly that we should be doing? Then, as I mentioned earlier, you got to start small. Try to convert 10 to 20% of your revenue within 12 months to get some reoccurring revenue coming into the organization. And then what you can do with your strategic planning is you can always modify it to kind of say, you know what, that worked out pretty smoothly because we were prepared for it. We could handle the bandwidth and we could kind of move it forward. We think realistic because you got to look at your market. What does your market really have for it? How big do you think you can get? And then certainly the capacity within the organization. Then you can start to take a look at building it a little bit more and getting it as large as you would like to get it. Because remember, depending on the field you're in, the bigger you get, what does that mean for added business that you have? How many more people are you going to need? All of that is about capacity and sustainability. So you have to look at a lot of different variables when you're looking and walking through this process. Certainly, you're going to need document contracts, retention. You want to do like retention metrics and track what you have, buyer's value proof. You got to use, some analytics to make sure what are you tracking in these areas. And these are pretty straightforward metrics. If you have questions about them, certainly you can reach out and ask us about them. We'd be happy to discuss it with you if you have any questions and want to take it a little bit more seriously if you're just beginning to look into it and take a look at it. So let's take a look at the resiliency of reoccurring revenue. Oops, I'm sorry about that. My bad. So when you take a look at it, companies with reoccurring revenue had about a 3.5 times less volatility, as we talked about earlier in 2020, right? So that really becomes, let me try to do this as a trick. So you can see down here, we have the red line. I'm just going to match it with another red line. But when you take a look at the subscription model up here, they really had a lesser decline than what you would have if you're taking a look at just one-time buyers. And again, I understand that one-time buyers are probably going to be, for most companies that are not technology, one-time buyers are going to be where the majority of your revenue is going to come from. What we're suggesting here is you got to take a look at trying to get somewhere between that 10 to 30% of your revenue is coming in on a reoccurring basis. Because this is real. When you take a look at 2020, that was a pretty big hit. So even though other people were being, told to stay home, businesses were going down, they were still paying their subscription model for what they had. So revenue is still coming into the company. So I don't want to put another COVID out there because that was just a disaster in itself. But I think the main thing and the point that I want to make here is when you take that period of time from our history and you say, okay, what was the impact on my business? So ask yourself this question: what was the impact on my business in 2019, 2020 when COVID was at its peak? And if I had 10, 20, or 30% of reoccurring revenue, how much more would that have helped us work through that entire process to get and kind of get out of this mess and kind of move it forward? So, just think about that. And again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us and chat. Subscription businesses maintained 85% of growth. We talked about that a little bit because it does create more predictable cash flow, certainly helps you as a business owner move forward. So we think that the volatility is obviously creates a lot less volatility. And I think that's good for any business when you can create that and create the cash flow that you're really trying to look for. So that kind of wraps up what we have on reoccurring revenue. If you'd like to connect with us, we have a QR code here. If you want to connect and get our information, we have that right here. If you want to reach out to us and you have any questions. If you want to take a look at what your business might take a look like, you can certainly complete our transferability business by copying the QR code here in the slide and take a look at this. It takes you about 10 minutes to go through the scorecard and give you a pretty good accurate score of what you have. We are going to be kicking off next year. So 2025, we did these webinars for the Built to Exit Masterclass on a bi-monthly basis. We've had some really good feedback on it. We've got some really good things that we're going to be rolling out in 2026. So we're going to start doing these on a monthly basis starting in January. So on January 8th at 1 p.m., they're always going to be at 1 p.m. In the afternoon Eastern time. We are going to be talking about why owners wait too long to transition out. First of all, why do they do it, and what is the impact on the company when they do that? And what are things that you need to think about when you're looking at transitioning out of the business? And what is the time frame that you really should be considering as you go through this? So we appreciate having you here today. Hopefully that you got some good information out of it. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. You can send it through an email. Our website has a chat that you can go through and talk, or you can schedule a quick call for 15 minutes. Be happy to chat with you about that if it is of some interest. Otherwise, I want to thank everybody for being here today. Really appreciate the time, and there was some good information for you. And we will see you in January. Happy holidays. Thank you so much. Have a great day.